Hello, second violins. This is a tutorial on the second violin part for Waltz from Sleeping Beauty by Tchaikovsky, arranged by Leland Forsblad. And in this tutorial, I will play every part of this this piece for you, your part, with a metronome. And I also will, when we get to the parts that are a little bit more challenging, I will break it down for you and just kind of remind you of some things to make a note of with the finger patterns, and maybe give you a few tips for playing it or practicing it. So let's go ahead and start at the beginning. The first part is really not too tricky, so I'm going to go ahead and put the metronome on, and I'll just play. You're welcome to play along with me if you feel like you've got this part down and you want to play along. That's great. Play along with me, and then when we get to a part that is a little bit trickier, I'll go ahead and stop and we'll discuss it. So here we go. The metronome is set at 144 beats per minute for the quarter note. And we do have an accent on beat 1, which is really important if you are playing this with a metronome. And 1, 2, 3, 1, here we go. Softer. 9. Right there. So that was pretty straightforward. One of the things that you need to be thinking about when you're playing these offbeats is sometimes you have the same thing for a number of measures in a row. I think you've got maybe about 8 or 10 measures of the rest, and then followed by two Ds. Just make sure that you know how that fits together with the melody, and that you do keep counting. Just one fingering that I wanted to point your attention to: measure 19 and 20. So you're using fourth finger for the A instead of open. So 2, 3. That is a low second finger, F natural, and then F sharp there. Okay, so make sure that you remember to change the finger pattern for the second finger when you play that. Okay, moving ahead, let's go ahead and start at 25. Again, you've got a whole bunch of Ds in a row, so just make sure that your bowing is correct and you're playing the right rhythm. And just notice coming up at measure 33, you have a D sharp, which is low first finger on the D string, so be prepared for that. Okay, metronome on, starting at measure 25. I'm going to go ahead, whoops, and I will use open D for this one. Put my shoulder rest back on. All right, here we go. 25, 2, 3, 1, ready, go. Okay, so that one is a little bit tricky. Once you get to measure 33, the rhythm pattern does seem to be a little bit contrary to the beat that you're hearing from the metronome. This is one reason it's really good to be having the beat really emphasize beat 1. Because in a waltz, you always have beat 1 emphasized, but sometimes you're playing something that is a little different than that. So let's start at 33 with the D sharp. Listen, and 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And when we accent beat 1 and then beat 3 and then beat 2 like that, we call that a hemiola. Basically, with a hemiola, instead of a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, what you're hearing is 1, 2, 3. You're taking 2 groups of 3 and you're making a big 3. And that's a pretty cool and common rhythmic device in this style of music. Let's not neglect to go over that thing at 39. So nothing really terribly challenging about that, except it goes pretty fast. So that would be one to slow down and practice it a little slowly, being very careful about getting the notes in tune, because if you never slow that down, it might always kind of sound a little bit mushy. Okay, so rather than faking your way through it, which sometimes can be the tendency if you can't immediately play it up to tempo, let's slow it down, work on it slow, and then gradually build it up to tempo. That's how you learn to play fast parts clean. Slow. And then might take you a few more times. Let's go ahead and we're gonna continue with the metronome and put that back on. Why don't we start at measure 39? And 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, and 1. Tricky one right there. Just a couple of things. There are a couple of spots here where you have, for example, 49, where you have a 8th note and an 8th rest followed by a half note. The 8th note, actually that's the only spot in this where you have that exact rhythm, but the 8th note and the 8th rest is equivalent to a quarter note, which is very little time in this meter. So it looks like a lot of time, but it's not a lot of time. So playing 48 and 49, that D comes maybe a little sooner than it looks like it would if you're not really counting the beats. Okay, let's look at measure 55. You got low A, and then there you start with the C natural, so 3rd finger, normal 3rd finger, not high, and then slide it up to the high 3rd finger. So it's 3, 3, 4, 3. So and you have to slide between the 3s. Don't worry if you hear that slide because it is going to go by pretty quickly. And then in the next measure, 56, you do play high 3rd finger. So let's play 55 and 56 nice and slow together. So 1, 2, 3. Let's do that again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then with time. Okay, a couple of string crossings in there, which makes it challenging. Now the next little spot, let's go through each of these. That was 58 and 59. Nothing too super tricky there, not even any string crossings. And then 60. That 4th finger will allow you to eliminate a potential 2 string crossing, so makes it more efficient. And then from you want to be in the middle of the bow for what's next. Just keep it in the middle of the bow for this thing at 61. Let's go ahead and we're going to start at let's go 55 and we'll play up to 61 with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 1, here we go. 2, 3. And okay, so those are passing that little melodic line back and forth between you and the first violins. When you get to 61, this is an accompanying figure. You're accompanying the cello and the viola on the melody. And here you want to really be careful to count how many of each identical motive you play. So the motive is just 2 8th notes and a quarter note. And so first violins are playing something really similar, but with some different notes. And then watch out, because in your part, you've got some spots where you're just, like for example, 66, where you're playing 3 of the same notes. Okay, there you just go down, up, down. So if there's different notes, it's down, up, and with a slur on the into beat 3. And then if there are 3 notes of the same, like 66 or 70, you just do down, up, down. Okay, so watch the bowing. Everything should be using very little bow here and right in the middle of the bow, and really, really light. Okay, so starting at 61 with the metronome. And 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, and. Oops, let's try that again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and. 1. Okay, so it's a little bit trickier than it looks. It's just really important that you're keeping the bow really nice and controlled, and that as you read the different notes that you're thinking about the finger patterns. For example, 71, that's F natural, and then the next one, 72, F sharp. Your part is actually a little bit more varied in terms of what notes you play than what the first violins are playing. So just be careful to play the right notes as you do that, and don't make a big deal out of it. Make sure that you are counting beat 1 even though you're never playing on beat 1 in this passage. 84, this is a tricky one that you will be playing along with the first violin. So it's all the violins playing this. So let's try that little line there. So we start second finger in half position. So half position is when you take the note that you normally would play with the normal first finger, and you move your second finger to that, so your first finger plays the low note. Now your finger, so I'm going to get in close so you can see this. So you go 2, 1, and then 1. And then slide that 1 back up. And then from there, high third finger for G sharp. So, and then the next one is an up bow. C natural, so low second finger, and then high third finger, like that. So that's kind of tricky, a lot of changing finger patterns through that. So I would say build it one note at a time like I just showed you, and then play those notes slower, really getting each little section in tune before you add a note. So, okay, and then you have another Hemiola figure, so it's starting on the D sharp. Together with the metronome, starting at 84. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, and. 2, 3. Okay. Now the next spot it's really nice and easy and light. You're just playing the offbeats again. So I'll just go ahead and go through it, starting at 93. And 1, 2, 3, 1. Okay, and that last little bit, 108, D sharp, low first finger, and then F sharp, moving back to high second finger, so, and like that. So make sure that you're really getting those in your ear and playing them in tune. Then we continue with more offbeats at 109, 1, 2, and. That was 8 measures of the same thing, so probably not something that you need to practice as much as some of the others. Okay, starting at 117, now you have the melody again, along with the cellos. And then you've got a DSL Coda coming up. So DSL Coda tells you to go back to the sign, which you will find at 77. And then that second time through, that's kind of the fun part. You get to play it twice. And then the second time through, when it says to Coda, which is right above measure 90, you skip to the Coda, which you will find at 125. You do those transitions without giving them any extra time. So it's really important that you're looking ahead. When you get to the part where you're going to be going back, you got to be thinking ahead about that and be finding it before it's time to play it. And you will get used to that in time. Now, just a heads up, at the Coda, you've got a pretty important and prominent part right at measure 125. So it'd be a good idea to memorize the last few minutes before you take the Coda, so you can be kind of focusing on getting the thing that you play in 125. So when we get there, I'll break that down for you. Let's go ahead and start at 117 with the metronome, and we'll play through that passage that we worked on before that you're going to play again. Here we go. 117, 1, ready, go. so there we go. Let's work on that little spot at the beginning of the coda. So you're going from, let's see, 89. And then that's first finger, you put your first finger back to low 1. And do that 1-1 thing again. So low and then high at 1. Like there, just regular 2-3 for C sharp D, and then there we go. F sharp G is low second finger, and then you do it again. Low second finger there for the C natural, and then the next part. Just make sure you get your fingers in tune. So slow, it sounds like this. Why don't you play that with me? 1, 2, 3. Okay, now let's go ahead and put the metronome back on for the last time, and we'll start right on the coda. And 1, 2, 3. There you have it. I hope that was helpful in figuring out the parts for your part for Waltz from Sleeping Beauty. It is a really lovely piece to play, and you have some really lovely opportunities to play melody and some nice harmony. And it's not all hard, but the parts that are tricky are really pretty tricky. So you have to be very careful about your finger patterns. Make sure that you're playing with good technique, and that you're not caving in your hand, because if you collapse the wrist like this, then you're not going to be able to get all those different finger patterns. So keep your fingers straight up and down, keep your wrist nice and straight, and then just get used to using your ear to find where the notes sound in tune, and moving those fingers around between all the different positions that they can be. And you pretty much use everything in first position in this one. So it's just really a matter of knowing what it sounds like and where to find those notes on your violin. So good luck and happy practicing.